Hi there, everyone. My name's Owen Uriah, and I'd like to introduce you to a new project that we're doing called Mandate. Men getting together, talking, discussing, doing whatever we need to do to talk about the issues that we have in our world today. Not just the church, we have many other issues too that we'd like to talk about. But tonight we're here for a specific question that we're asking tonight. And I've got some guests here with me, so I'm gonna give them all an opportunity to introduce themselves before we get started. Brothers, could you introduce yourself individually so the listeners will know who you are?
Good evening, Pastor. Good evening, gentlemen.
Thank you,
My
Danny.
name is Danny Rice. I reside at Perry Baptist Church. Pastor Owen is my pastor, unfortunately. I've been a Christian about 12 years. I'm glad to be here.
My name's Danny D. I'm a gospel radio presenter on New Star Radio.
Hi there. I'm Derek Giddon. I go to Gateway Christian Centre in West Bromwich. I'm involved in the men's ministry and pastoral care.
I'm DJ AB. I'm a radio presenter on Jam Radio right here in the UK, Birmingham.
Amen. Thank you for introducing yourself, brothers. Can I just say before we even start tonight that I'm very grateful and very thankful for you taking our time to be with us tonight. I truly believe that, you know, the Lord has got something for us to hear, but also listeners out there, I just want them to know that we've got something to say, and that's what we're here to do tonight. The only thing that is taboo tonight, I don't want no bad language on the screen. I'm sure you wouldn't give any anyway, but I thought I'd just make that clear. But everything else, you know, we're here to talk. Let us keep it real, and that's always been my motto in life. Keeping it real, just being honest is where we are. Okay, bless you, everyone. The question I want to pose to you tonight to start our conversation off is, are men needed in the modern day church? Are men needed in the modern day church? And anyone can kick off tonight, because I'm hoping it's going to kick off. That's what we're here to do. Praise God. Let's go, guys.
Absolutely. I'm going to kick off then, because since you said that topic, I've been in my spirit, you know, where am I going to come from? And just before I came on here, so apologies I was a bit late, but you know, these young people, we need a pizza before you start. So I had to go out and get a pizza with my daughters. But anyway, what came back to me, and this happened, this also came up in the week, was actually, and I'm referring to a scripture here, Genesis 2, where am I? Basically, is that the right scripture? Basically, where God was actually asking, "Where art thou, Adam?" Right, and that's actually the very first question in the word, and that I think is very significant. And all I wanted to just push out, God was not talking about a location. I think he was actually saying, "Adam, where are you?" Adam, all sorts of things came to Adam after that sin and whatever, and he was hiding, he was in the bushes, he was feeling bad. But God asked him, "Adam, where art thou?" And I think God is actually saying to us and men, "Where art thou? Where are you?" Yeah, in me. Yeah, that's not physically in a location. So that's my kickoff point for today. But I love where you're trying to come from. You know, just the topic itself, us discussing it. And I love that you're heading as well. Mandate. That's brilliant.
Thank you, Derek. I think that's a great start, actually. Men, where are we? So let's start. Go on, guys. Let's share.
I think I think there is a place for men, but it's whether they're valued or not once they get in those places. And unfortunately, I think sometimes they're not valued for who they are, for their life skills, their social skills. They're just not valued. And I think also, I think sometimes pastors themselves make it difficult for men to actually want to do the ministry, because it's you know, let's say about too many Indians and not enough chiefs. And I think sometimes pastors unfortunately sees that as a threat, so keeps the men out of being part of the church and being able to develop the church.
Is that a men's ego thing, though, brother? He's saying that, right? Too many chicks, not enough Indians, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
I think it's just a bit of a get out clause, really. It's not about testosterone, is it? It's about
No, so-
I think. Sorry, jumping out. I think we make a lot of excuses. We let the women just take over because we're. I can't speak for myself. What I've seen, there's a lot of laziness and what's the word? Procrastinating within the men in church. Do you know what I mean? That's what I think. I've seen myself personally, and I include myself in that. If I would be really honest, I include myself in that.
there is that, but I also feel that there's models and there's things skills that we can draw from the world, the secular world, to make our churches better. And one of those is when you're pointing people who have the skills, who have the knowledge, and not just because they may be friends with you.
Well, can I just say, thank you guys for making that start. I just want to hear the AB now, please. Just give your opening statement, AB. I mean, these guys are opening the packets already.
No, no.
That's good. It's good.
Listen, I'm just there. I'm listening to what all the guys have says. What Danny said. What Danny says. I think sometimes we can be too laid back as men. We can be too relaxed because women are doing what they're doing, or we're not recognized, like to what Danny D said, with our skills, and we're not pointed in the right direction. We might have a certain skill. It can be anything, painting and decorating, or whatever it is, and the pastor will know and take no notice. We're bypassed. And a lot of men are bypassed with their skills in the church. Danny's saying follow the world. I know what Danny's saying, but remember, in church, we've got the skills what the world's got, but are we using it in church? Are we being able to use it? You know, are we being recognized? Even if a pastor or a deacon knows that we've got the skills, are they saying, let's use whoever's got that skill? Or do they, or like what Danny says, get who they know, even though they haven't got the skill? And I think a lot of men in church, I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen because, like I said, Danny can probably relate. I do radio presenting. I've been doing it for over 10 years. I've gone to pastors and I've said, well, we're on the radio. Why don't you use the radio? But it wasn't until COVID that everybody was jumping on it. And look how long me and Danny's been doing radio. But now, because they had no choice, you know what I mean? That they didn't have a choice. That's why sometimes they'll probably come to you for the idea, or pick your brain. Not inviting you, but just picking your brain. How do you do this? How do you do that? You know, and I see what Danny D said. But we can be laid back as well, and those kind of situations will make you just say, oh, you know what, yeah, and you just carry on.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your opening statements, guys. And I'll be honest with you, already you've opened a packet of what is it, can of worms as it is, which we've got to discuss now tonight. I hear that Derek opened up by asking, where are they? Where art thou? He was asking a question about Adam, and I see it the same way as Derek does. Actually, I believe God is saying to us, men, where are you? What are you doing? You know, where's your brain? What are you getting involved? What you're doing? I see that, but I've just highlighted that one of you just mentioned about men not being valued. I want to talk more in a second about the hindering of men and the pastoral leadership that hinders men. I want to talk about that in a second. I'd just like us to clarify a bit more between us. When we talk about valuing men, what are we really talking about here when we say valuing men?
But it sounds to me, it sounds like you what Danny was saying, and what's the other guy's name? Sorry, the other guy's name.
AB.
AB, yeah.
Sorry. No disrespect, AB. So AB, right? Yeah.
No problem.
It's like it's about recognition, right? Yeah. And you know, for me, if I'm doing something, you know, right, yeah, it's not recognition from man, you know. It's got recognition from God still, you know what I mean? So I really don't mind if somebody else gets a props, is what I call it, for something I've done. I know it's me and my God who's I'm doing it for. You know what I mean? So if you say, oh, I've done this, and people want to know about it. What's the motive? What's the motive? You understand me? So I really, it makes no difference to me if it's glory. As long as God gets glory. I know it sounds really low, holy now, because I'm not holy than now, don't get me wrong. But I'm not interested about what you say, Danny, or what everyone was saying about what I've done. Do you know what I mean? I'm doing it for the grace of God, for the good of men and the good of God. If you know what I'm saying. If you do the men's group, it's try and get the men together. It's all about God.
Okay.
Derek?
I mean, I was just going to add here. I mean, I wanted to put this in perspective from where I am. A lot of our churches, and I'm talking predominantly black churches and mixed churches, are filled with women.
Yes.
There's a disproportionate number of women. So the thing is, we've got to put that in perspective, guys. This is not just 50% women and 50% guys, and guys are being sidelined. Predominantly, they're women. So actually, that's a question that we should be looking at. And I know I've spoken to Pastor Owen on this between us, that actually, to me, this is not brain surgery. Why are actually our churches and ministers not evangelizing and witnessing for men, right? And when I say that, we always need to come back to the word. The word actually tells us that men are supposedly the high priests of the altar, supposedly the head of the household. Yet, churches don't operate like that. As some of the points that the guys have already mentioned, sometimes as a man you felt inferior, but you know, this is my take and I'm out because I'd be interested in what other guys say. They're more comfortable with women. And I'm feeling that, you know, women have that servant heart. When they say jump, they say how high. And actually here comes their tithes regularly and religiously. And, you know, maybe men have a slightly different spirit. So I also start to wonder how a lot of these churches gravitate to predominantly focus on the women. I know that there's disproportionately that women, but actually, what are we doing about bringing men to the Lord? That is, I think, a question. And I mean, me and Pastor Owen have spoken of this, and you told me things and mentioned things I'd never even thought about. So all I can say, it's good for men to talk.
I'm not sure how to answer that.
Sorry, my English.
The woman says, I'm not too sure.
Excuse
I didn't even
me.
touch. I didn't even touch anything, right?
It wasn't
That's my
me.
That's my phone just.
we want to know who invited her in tonight.
Right? This is technology just taking over. Right?
No problem, Derek. No problem, Derek. But I do appreciate what you're saying there, bro, because you know I'm just going on my little list here that you guys brought up, and this thing about value, in a sense, really, it's what value do we have to the church? And I know that we don't want to be, you know, we don't hyper spiritualize, but the truth of it is, at the end of the day, there's not a lot of things that the men do that the women ain't already qualified to do. Personally, I think this is a problem we have in marriages nowadays. You know, you get a man finds a woman and he says to her, well, you know, I'll give you some money. She says, I got more than you. He says, well, you know what I'll do then? I'll bring some food. She says, man, I got a fridge full of food. I'll buy you a car. I got 2. I tell you what I'll do. I'll give you some children. I've already got 4. You know, the women have already got everything, you know. So when we talk about value, and I know you may mean spiritual value, I'm just wondering, based like what Desmond was just saying, sorry, Derek was just saying there, thinking about building the church, making the church a place, making it a feasible, viable company, because that's what some of them are nowadays. We want that skill, don't we? We want that skill. Do men bring that to the table? Are they able to do that? Are they willing to do that? Because I'm just still on the thing about value. We got to get down to the other questions that you just mentioned. I'm still talking about value at the moment. What value do we have? What do we bring?
I think we men, we do bring the skill sets, but unfortunately, I think sometimes there are people in the church who are in one position, but they don't just want to stick to that position and do good with that one thing. They want to do everything and control everything, and so it leaves people out in the cold who do have those skill sets and saying, well, why should I bother if you're not going to give me that opportunity?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Again, with the technology, because of our age, I've tried to try. You can't do everything. Again, coming up with ideas. I had an idea when I seen the technology slowing. I said, why don't we have media in our church? A media section. Again, I was just brushed to the side. If
That's
it's not
too
their
worldly.
idea, eh?
Too worldly.
Well, again, Danny, it's like what you said.
Yeah.
No.
If they've got the skills, why can't we have the skills?
Exactly.
Well, the thing is, I was just going to
why
add,
can't we have the skills?
everything can be used for good or bad. I must
That's
tell you
it.
that our church, technology is right up there. You
That's
know,
good.
we're training young people. We are going up to television quality. We are the bee's knees, right? But I know across the board, you know, oh, that's the devil. Oh, that's the world. Oh, sorry, yeah. So that is all a mindset. That's all a mindset, and who's leading and shepherding. If I have to be honest.
Well, I'll give you an example because I do security as well. I go away. I do Glastonbury and all that kind of stuff. I go to rock concerts and all that because of my job. And believe it or not, I see Christians out there. Christians out there giving people water. A hot day, they're just giving people water. And it helps. It helps to get the word out there. But some of us wouldn't go to these places. We say, no, it's too worldly and things like that. So it depends where you want to get the word out there. Where do you want to get the gospel out there to men? And you got some macho men at these places, and you'd be surprised by just giving out water. How you can speak to people about Christ? They were just there giving out water. Nice hot day, just giving out water. All they said, come and sit down if you're too hot. And a conversation grew. Again, it's going out to these different places. All right, we got the Commonwealth coming. How many churches are going to get involved? I'm not saying there's not going to be any. But sports, they'll probably say, nope, not interested. How many young people have they got, doing sports in schools, doing sports outside, and then they come to church? And I think it's having the balance of how do we get involved with the outside world when things are going on.
Okay, guys, can I just try and rein it back in a bit, just to keep it on point? Only because I've just heard you saying something about pastors hindering men. I'm trying to keep the thing focus on the men tonight, because you also said in your opening statements about lazy men. Now, I know church generally have got their things about doing this and doing that, but just thinking about men alone, we're talking about men tonight. I'm asking the question, are they needed in church? Because if pastors are hindering them, number one is that's a leadership issue, and that really needs to be dealt with. I'll be honest with you, and I'll just say personal experience. I don't have that many men wanting to do all the work that I have to worry about men wanting to take over me, to be honest. And I know many other pastors wish there was only more men getting involved, to be honest. That's the truth. So we can sit here and say, well, okay, because we want to do this, that, the other. Sometimes we can't get you to church on a Sunday on time. I'm not talking about our church, I'm talking about generally, just sticking it on the men. And then this issue that I didn't bring up, you brought up, you mentioned lazy men. How does that fit in? Because a lot of times, we talk about men only. I'm a great believer, men get men, and I know they've always said, well, women can bring men to the church. And I heard that many years ago, and I found that really difficult to handle. Let's get more women in the church and they'll get the men to come. I don't know if I want that to be the thing. I would have liked it to be a strong men living a certain type of life that becomes attractive. Anyway, I don't want to talk too much, but I'm going to just stick on this a little bit more about pastors, leadership hindering men, and then lazy men, because I don't know if pastors want to hinder men that really want to work. Maybe some, but not generally. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I'll put myself on the block.
One quick thing I was just going to add to that point, Pastor Owen, was that what I've experienced and seen, where I'm not too sure about hindering, but I see a threat to control. That's what I see. And so, if you can preach, you ain't going to preach too much in some churches, because you may knock the pastor off his mantle. If you are good at teaching, same sort of thing. And, where I've seen where certain people's gifting has been crushed, and it's been a control thing. I mean, I'm going to give you an example recently of a church where a friend of mine goes to. She used to do praise and worship. All of a sudden, and she was good at it as far as I understand, and she would do this regularly, but then the pastor in his wisdom decided to do that himself. Now, that wouldn't be too bad if he could sing.
Sing.
Yeah.
I agree.
No, no. And I'll tell you that he has singers and men singers at that church. I mean, I'll talk to you outside of this because you know some of the guys,
Yeah.
and you know they can sing. You've been on the same platform with them.
Yeah.
But that pastor can so not sing.
Yeah.
And lots of things that I've heard, it's been about a control.
Yeah.
One thing I think DJ AB said, and I've experienced this myself, where I tried to put my skill set, my knowledge, my business forward to the church, to help church members, which in itself would also help the church. Oh, no. We're not that sort of church. Now, I have to say, from where I am, I really wonder what sort of church that is. Yeah, where we're not being given the opportunity to sell our wares. In other communities, that's a said and that's a given, and other religions, but not us, right? And obviously, everybody has to do their own due diligence. The excuse is that, oh, we may do shoddy workmanship, oh, we may run off with their money. That happens all day long. People engage people that don't even know who do that.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think, it's a control thing. I don't necessarily think it's a not valuing. I think we need to control this because it seems like that's the main person. That's what I think.
Yeah.
I don't want the other guys think.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, being a pastor's kid, you sometimes get to see things and hear things that you shouldn't really don't wish you didn't want to. And unfortunately, some of the things I've seen from certain denomination of churches that it is the leader who's restricting the men to the point where the men have actually left the church and gone and started their own churches. And this is why we have so many denominations, because I know for one, but and then I give God thanks that he's proving that the person has proven themselves right, because their churches have flourished.
Amen.
Danny, Wright, any thoughts?
I'm just sitting here listening. It's like it's a difficult one because servitude. It's just it sounds like a lot of testosterone to me, but a lot of the ego. It still does. I'm sorry, because like if you're in a church, what is that moving forward? You got a couple of options right here. You stay put and pray about it, or you see Ultimate Church, they're holding you back so much. It's not just plain as simple as the pastor doesn't want me to do something. It might be, I don't know. It's a difficult one for me because I've been in that situation. I've always been encouraged. Do you know what I mean? So it's a difficult one for me to say about this, speak about it. I can't really speak about this subject because I've been held back.
Okay. So what you're saying, Danny, maybe the other guys here have been around churches where they have felt hindered. I don't know if that's how they felt, but maybe they felt hindered. Sure. I gotta say this. Can I throw this into the mix then as well? I think Derek, as you mentioned, right? You have some men that can preach. They can preach, and but we also got some women that can preach. And they can be a thorn in your flesh just as much as a man can. Okay. I remember many years ago there was a guy came to the church for about a week. I'm exaggerating, maybe 3 weeks, and then he wanted to preach. And we I said to him, you're welcome to come on the evening, and give a testimony. No, he didn't want a testimony. He wants to preach in the morning. Why do you want to preach in the morning? Because that's when most of the people are there. And sometimes we don't want to do our due diligence, as Derek put it. Sometimes we haven't committed ourselves to the church or done the work that necessary to be done. And I know many have. I'm just saying there is that side of the coin also. And then we get kind of like into this thing where we think, well, okay, you don't want to support me, you don't want to help me. I do struggle with people that say, well, the leadership is not helping me. Then I wonder, why are you there? Why do you stay with an abusive leadership? But I suppose that's like a relationship when you stay with an abusive spouse. I never understand that either, but we do. It happens. So, yep. Just moving down the conversation a little bit. You mentioned about abusive pastors. And I know you're strong guys. You know, I know you all. And I know you're not talking just personally, but a lot of the men that I know around churches are not mamby-pamby guys. They're kind of strong guys. For me, when we talk about testosterone, Danny, I think it's good to see, because I want to see men flex. I want to see men come and say, yo, I've arrived. You know, I mean, Derek spoke about this a while ago, and we're saying, like, when gifting's there, we're supposed to nurture the gifting and then give them the platform. Not before, not too late, but, you know, try and help them along the way. But then that brings me back to the lazy thing. See, to have that platform, it takes a certain kind of effort and time. You know, and some of you know where I'm going with this. I'm just saying, I'm happy to work with anybody, but I'm kind of at that stage of life now where I'm saying, I don't like people wasting my time.
Yeah.
And sometimes we want help and we want to do this. I know that Derek's in the electronics business, and it takes time to learn that. You know, you guys on radio, it takes time. I've said this many times. People don't want to do no training anymore. It's kind of like many times we come in and, you know, men and women, you know, well, I could preach and God has given me the gift. Well, God gave you the gift and he'll teach you to sit down and be quiet for a while. You know my thoughts on this. I just wanted to throw that out there because to think as we're going along. We have seen, someone said to me a while ago, the attitudes of women are the reason why I ain't going to no church. Men again, I'm talking about men. Are women really hindering us from coming to church and serving God and doing what we're called to do? And are we going to allow that, men?
It's double-edged sword, Pastor. Double-edged sword, because we hear there ourselves, because not enough men in the church, right, to infuse the men to see as a man of God, flexes, as he put it. You know what I mean? So women are taking over in the church. So it's double-edged sword. You want to bring them more in, but they come to church and sit back of women in the place, and the men are not strong enough to sit in the background waiting for the women to do all the work. It's a double-edged sword. You know what I mean?
Triple-edged. I think it's a triple-edged sword. I think men also don't like hypocrisy, and unfortunately, I feel that's why some men don't come to the church, because their wives go to the same church, and the way the wife is treating him at home. And I knew this man, beautiful man, lovely spirit, and I sit down and talk with him, and he'd say he's not coming to church, not when his wife behaving like she is, and then unfortunately then goes to church and professing to be so Christian-like, and I tell him it's a different matter. And I think that does stop men coming to the church as well, because we don't like hypocrisy.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just going to add one quick thing, Danny, on the back of that, which Pastor mentioned earlier on, picked up on. And I actually think where things have gone wrong, I mean, the divorce rate in church is the same. It actually may be higher. I can't
Higher
remember.
now,
It may
It's
actually be
higher.
Yeah. But I tell you what I see as a challenge was the fact that the women in church are like the women in the world. The word tells us how our relationships and marriage should be. And all that critique you mentioned, Pastor, right, is not how the word says it. I mean, I remember, funny enough, this lady runs her own church now. She broke off and set her own church up. And she said to me, oh, a man should be submissive to a woman. And I chuckled to her and I says, really? You must read a different Bible to what I do. And then she said, oh, I was only joking. Brothers, she wasn't. She's since divorced from her husband. But what I'm saying is there's that worldly head and discernment, and there's a godly head and discernment. There isn't the teachings in the church. But again, I'll also say this is not rocket science. We can read the Bibles. We can get narratives on the internet. We don't need a pastor to tell us how this should be. But I think that is a big issue within our church in terms of relationships. So all the things you said, Pastor, I've got this, I've got that. You know what I'd said to a sister the one day, even you were earning whatever you're earning in a director position, your husband is unemployed, he's still head of the house. And she was like flabbergasted, right? She didn't believe that. She was the main breadwinner.
Mm.
Really?
Mhm,
Where did the
mhm,
word tell us that? Where
mhm,
did the word tell us that, brothers? Yeah.
mhm.
But it's head of the house, meaning who's earning that much money. That's the
Well,
head
that's
of the
how
house.
she looks at it.
Mhm,
Yeah. That's how she
mhm,
looks at it in terms of position and authority
mhm.
and
Is she,
spending
is she,
power.
is she a Christian?
Oh yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
it isn't just about being a Christian though, as well. It's the way
No.
it's the way society's dictated things should be now, and unfortunately it's seeped right into the church as well.
Of course.
Yeah, I still
Well,
think I must say a lot of this is to do with teaching, isn't it?
yes.
You know, a lot of the women have not been taught this, and men have not been taught this. And I'll be honest with you, I've got no axe to grind here because I totally am agreement. It's never been about how much you earn. It's not to do with that. It's about status and where God has put us. But we have to be taught that because many have not been taught that. But when we talk about hypocrisy, only because I'm trying to keep the focus on men, we've got men that are hypocritical too. You know, and I hear Danny say, well, you know, men don't like, man, I've never met, I'm a hypocrite, man. I'm not one to, you know, especially during COVID, I've never seen so much hypocrisy in all my life. You see, I'm still going to get to the point where I'm trying to ask the question, are men needed in the modern day church? You see, I'm still not hearing the are men needed because you said that the abusive pastors, we talked about that. We talked about the women. Now we're blaming the women. We're saying, oh, it's the women. Listen, no woman tells me to come or not go to church. I stand where I stand. And I've been there for 30 odd years doing what I'm doing. And I hope you will too. But if we don't stand, then we fall for everything.
Yeah.
So, you know, so when we talk about, you know, when we start to talk about the home, well, we can't say that to everyone because some men are not married, you know, so we don't live under that regime. And as Danny rightly said, you have some women that treat their husbands like dirt. Of course. But I got to tell you, some men do too. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I was on a radio, Derek, I think he was with me that night, I'm not sure. He was on a radio station in London where the woman said that her husband beats her and quotes scripture at the same time. So, you know what? I ain't going for none of this. You know what? Rubbish is rubbish. Listen, men, I'm asking you, men, we're here tonight. Are we needed in church, man? Are we needed? And sometimes we're going to have to fight for that position. We're going to have to do that, but that's where I'm going anyway.
Well,
But, you know,
Owen, it's like what, listen, I've been listening, and I think again, it's how we spend our time then, right? It's the time, in whatever skills we've got. I'm just coming up with thoughts. I'm just thinking while you guys are talking, how are we men, or myself as a man, how am I spending my time when I attend church or I don't attend church to do what I have to do for God? Because women keep coming up, and as we know, so some of the women will spend time, make that effort, make that sacrifice to do what they have to do. And I just think sometimes the word lazy come up. I think we have to get rid of that laziness, spend more time, positive time in church, not just go back, not just attend church and sit back and let everything, let the women take over, because it sounds like they're taking over. Or when church is finished, go home, they stop behind, they do what they're doing. They're there earlier than us sometimes, before church and after church. I think we have to be able to get that balance.
Yeah.
And the Bible does talk about we renewing our minds. I think as men, I've had to do it plenty of time. I'm still doing it now. You know, I mean, renewing my mind. Oh, we know what I did. You know, helping men to get food. My mind was saying, don't these guys want food? So I had to, you know, even talking to Owen, renew my mind and says, well, they probably don't want that. You know what I mean? So you have to spend your time, see what's going on around you. Even when you're sitting in church, look around you, see what's going on, see what the men are doing in church. I know sometimes we're looking on the children, oh, they're on their phone, oh, they're on this. But are some of the men really paying attention to what's going on in church? The women are, because you see what they're doing and they're putting the effort in. I'm listening to what Owen said. We say this about the woman and then we say, but it's this, we've got to get rid of that laziness. I've had it. I'll put my hand up. You know what I mean? I've had it.
Yeah.
You know, what I mean,
Yeah.
you can get into a rut of being a Christian. Think about when you became a Christian, how fiery you was. You know, you was all fired up. As years go past, some of that laziness creeps in. For me, it's kind of I've been ignited because of COVID, not just because I played music. I'm always fired up for playing music, but I think we need a bit more of that fire to get rid of that laziness. That's the way I see it, anyway.
Yeah, I reach out and shake your hand right now, brother, because we're taking responsibility. This is where I want us to get to, hopefully, that we do take some responsibility. Derek, Danny, any other quotes? Some comments, sorry, at this moment?
I'm just going to quickly answer what you just said. Absolutely, men are needed in the church. I mean, DJ AB just said something about a balance. This is how God designed this. You look at the world, here's man and man, and woman and woman.
Yeah.
But God designed this a particular way. I mean, we're to complement each other.
That's right.
I don't want it to just seem like we're shooting down the women.
Yeah.
You know, in the right balance, we're there to complement each other, right? God gave me some things and he gave the woman some other things. Yeah. And if we work together in his name, we will get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So absolutely, men are needed in the church. He gives the right balance. He gives the right order. It's a word thing. Absolutely all day long.
Yeah. Thank
I
you.
think-
Thank you. Thank you. Danny, yep, Danny D.
I was just going to say that we've just come out of 18 months of COVID and 18 months of churches using Zoom and everything, and like the government says, it's a new start. And I think unfortunately, even the churches need a new start and actually reassess how to do things and throw away things that don't work and throw away some of the traditions that don't need to bring it back into church, because we are in a new world society, if we believe it or not, and the opportunity is there for us to, as I say, restart the church and make it what it should be and what we want it to be.
Yeah. I'm in agreement with that, because COVID has been a real change for me, especially this last 10 years here I'm looking at. And I've mentioned to some of you before, I really see it as a big challenge. I do like the fact that, though, we're talking about self-responsibility now, because I still believe, and I don't think anyone's going to move me, doing some work with AB over the last few months, we was asking the question why men are not coming. And most of the men I met, the attitude is, why should I? What can you tell me?
Yeah.
But I'm a big man. What are you going to tell me? And that's kind of like not very humble. It's not the way we need to be. And I feel a lot of men feel like, well, hang on, I've reached. We don't really want to go back to this learning thing and, you know, being under submission and under someone, especially if we don't really respect the person we're under. And we need some role models. You know that as well as I do. We need some people that we can look to, you know, and say, yeah, man, I could follow him. Might have a few problems, but at least he's trying. You know, there's one man in the community that I love him to the bone. Not many people like him, but at least he gets up and does something. At least he takes the whips on his back and he takes it. And I wish we would be more like that. You know, I want to be more like that. You know, I know how many people I've let down. So I just want to just continue on in our conversation now. Only because you just mentioned, guys, and I think for me, I'm getting somewhere now, because AB just mentioned about our self-responsibility. You see, we know women in church. We got more women pastors than ever now, and we can argue about that all day long, and everyone's got their opinion. You know, what about us? You know, they went to do what they did. They went to college and did what they did. And AB just mentioned, the women will take the time, feed the kids, do what they do, whatever they do, and take the time to learn their books too.
Yeah.
Why can't we?
Yeah.
Now, I just want to be very, very plain and open to you here, because my son, I use my son always, I only use real stories that I'm living with. My son's awesome with the games. And I said, the amount of ability that you have to press these buttons for a game, imagine if you transferred that now to a skill that you could get paid for. I could get him a job with Derek. I could get him a job with Danny and AB, couldn't I? You know, I'm just saying, we won't apply that skill that you have into the right place where we can make it out. I'm just wondering, just a question. So self-responsibility. Let's talk some more about what we're going to do. Not the church, because we can't change that up there. But you know what? You can tomorrow, can't you? You know, I have to believe that leaders need you. I need you. Let me just use myself. I'll be honest with you, if I had a church with guys around like this that are saying this to me, we could do something, but we don't have that. We don't have that. Come on, talk to me. Self-responsibility. What about what we're going to do? Not the women, forget the women. What are we doing? What did you do yesterday, the day before? What are you going to do tomorrow? What are you going to do in 3 years' time? What are you going to do?
It's all about commitment and focus. I've run a few men's groups over a period of time, and we've had some amazing programs. But I will say to you, I haven't had the commitment, I haven't had the focus. And you know, the women, I take my hat off. You know that I love that example you gave, Pastor. When I was working for several blue chip companies, more and more as time went by, I'd come into boardrooms and I was the only man. And you know, so you can start cussing about older women, but actually, where are the men? That's not a woman's problem. That's so not a woman's problem. So the point you make about us taking responsibility is absolutely spot on, right? I mean, you say to the women, let's get together a group. You're having a women's group. I mean, at our church, I think it was called Flourish. 50 to 100 women turn up. You say, let's get a guys group. 2 or 3 guys roll in.
That's the problem.
So there's a disparity, guys. There's a disparity. Yeah. But I love where you're coming from, Pastor. We can talk about the guys, but then we have to be those guys.
And I'm only saying this, guys, let me tell you, I'm only saying this. Sorry to cut you. I'm only saying this because I know you all. So it's easy for me to say. You know, I know how skilled you are. That's the problem. And I look at companies that are making it out there, making a change in the world, haven't even got half the skills that you guys have got. Let's think about what we've got here. We've got media, you know, we've got manufacturing, we've got what do you call it? Radio, media as well. We've got all this technology. We could reach the world tonight. Yeah. Tonight, you guys know, because I you know, your church where you are at Derek, they've got second to none in their media team. They've got a fantastic setup up there. You know, in our church, we put some stuff in, but it's going to take someone to say, you know what, I'm going to sit down and learn this stuff. Yeah. And this is all I'm asking from men. You know, when you've been teaching, you guys have been teaching, you've been teaching some guys how to do your job or the things that you do. And when they're not interested, or you say, well, can you meet me in the morning on the show? I don't know if I can make it. I'll try. You just say, forget it. Forget it. Mm. You only do what you do because you took the time to do it. Mm. You know, I'm just picking you up because I know. Yeah. Go on, Brother Danny, go on.
You just said something a minute ago, right? Yeah. About media, right? Yeah. And it's just gentleman here is church is second to none, right? Yeah. You know that we might have the ability at our church, but we need some help. No networking between the men, more networking. So this man could help our church get to the level where his church is, and that's that sense. And we could do something else for them to help each other out. Networking as a men, as churches, men within the church itself. You understand me? Which is not happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I just chip in there, Danny? Right. The thing is, you're making a brilliant point there. There's been lots of things I've tried to get leadership. I'm talking about the pastors to collaborate with other churches. They're not having it. Right? You believe something different. You got a different doctrine. You believe this. I don't believe that. And those are roadblocks. You know, I even look at COVID and I look at, we would have had a massive voice in terms of our church community. I haven't seen 2 churches get together to say anything of one accord. So what you're saying, Danny, that's easy peasy for me. That ain't going through that isn't going through our leadership, bro. Yeah, that's not going through our leadership. While we're helping Danny, we could be doing something else. That's what that take will be. So you're making a great point, and I'm agreeing with you 100%. If a pastor was here, so what? I'm going to make that point anyway.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah. Good on you, brother. Good on you, brother. Yeah. Yep. Danny D, you was going to say, sorry, brother.
Well, I just wanted to come back to the point that was made about men's group, and I think sometimes we need to stop playing the numbers game, because even if it's 2 or 3, the Bible says where there's 2 or 3, I'm with you. And I think sometimes, because I'm a person that I look at trends, I follow trends, and I watch trends to see what's happening. And although, yes, men's group are probably only 3 or 4, 5, 6 people at a time, what I see happening is that someone dropped that pebble in the pond, and it's rippling out. Because, and the reason I say that, and it's not just in the churches, it's in the secular, it's in the world as well. Because I live in Warsaw, and there's a certain Caribbean takeaway and restaurant that I go to get my dinner sometimes. And what they started doing, they've started having men's group at the restaurant. They have one night every month where it's closed down and it's just men meeting and getting together.
It's good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't knock men's group.
No,
No, I don't think
I'm just in terms of, I mean, in terms of like
I-
comparison that was made of 50,
No.
100 women will come, but only 4 or 5 men.
No, Danny, there is a challenge. I mean, Pastor Owen spoke about this. It's all about a mindset, as DJ, I think AB said. It's about our mindset. The thing is, we're not talking about a church of 50 people, Danny. We're talking about a church of nearly 1,000 people,
Yeah.
right? So there is an issue,
Right.
right? You know what I mean?
Okay,
Some of the
yeah,
programs we've run have been
Mm.
out of this world. The guys start 1 or 2 weeks and drop off.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I'd heard there's a big football match come up. Really?
yeah.
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 Oh, something else is on. Something else has come up. Yeah. Come on, guys.
That's
No,
real. That's real. You know, that's real. And I've been saying this all the way through COVID. I mean, when the big matches run, I ain't missing that. I ain't missing that. I ain't missing that. I ain't missing that.
Owen,
Bravo.
again, it goes with the time. Where do you want to spend your time? What do you want to put your time into?
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, at
I've
least
got- I'll read that down in big.
I've got something coming up on the 30th, right? It's some guy said they wanted to play music. I said to them, all right, come and play some music. Some guy said they want to play dominoes. I said, oh, come play dominoes. I've got it at the end of the month, the 30th of October. Who came to me and said they want to help me with the food? Women. I didn't even ask them. You know what I mean? I didn't even think of asking them, but they come to me and go, oh, AB, if you want some food, you know, we'll come and do the food and we'll... But you know what it is? They want to come and see what we're doing as well.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Again, what can I say? Some men, like you say, for me, it's the time.
Yeah.
They want to, you put a program on, you know what I mean, like Derek says, and then football will come up. They won't make that sacrifice not to go to the football, which it probably would. Women would do that.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
You put a program on. I'm not, you know, and
Yes.
and they'll follow the program. They won't care if netball's on or this is on, but a little football comes on,
Yeah.
and they've gone, or something else come and they've gone, and they've lost.
Absolutely.
They've lost
Well,
the focus.
You've got a point there, AB, in terms of what I was saying is one hat doesn't fit all. And
Yeah.
there's different approaches for different.
No, definitely. Because one of my
Because I've recently I went to a presentation, and what they did in, I think it's Leeds, they did it in terms of, because you know we talk about men and prostate cancer and men not wanting to talk about it. So what they've done is they put a project together. I'm sure it was Leeds, where it was centered around dominoes and men playing dominoes, and they had the men playing dominoes and the men were talking, and it's all been videoed, it's all been recorded, it's there on the internet for anyone to see. And that was they were such a success with that, it was unbelievable. And so what I'm saying is we have to chop and change in terms of, we can't just put one program up, a certain program, and expect everybody. It has to be different things for different people.
No, I agree. Like today, I on a Tuesday, I help with the elderly, right? It's a mixed group, mixed men and women. The men are on one side, playing dominoes, the elderly men, and the women are on the other side of the room doing what they're doing, sewing or whatever they're doing. And once in a while, they have a speaker in. They had Tony Kelly in a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I know.
Tony Kelly came in. He had all of their attention, the men and the women, talking about diabetes. So their elderly meet. They meet every Tuesday. They've got a good group there. Again, what's missing for them is us. You know what I mean? Because they said, so where are you? We want to talk to you guys. We want to share your experience. We've been here. We want to share our experience when we came from the Caribbean. You know what I mean? If I don't go for 2 weeks, I go, where you been? Where you been? And I think we can gain from that as well. And they do want to talk to the grandchildren, because some of them, they can't talk to, they can't even, some of them can't talk to their own kids because probably it's their son or it's their son. But, probably like you guys go there and you don't know them like myself. They're willing to talk. You know what I mean? They're willing to talk. And I think it's that generation gap again. And it's making the time. You know what I mean? Because I leave work and sometimes, I tell you the truth, I don't feel up to it. But you know what I mean? It's making that effort to go down there and be with them. It's making that. I could go home and sit down and watch a football. You know what I mean? But again, it's making that time, making that effort. And you know what? It's about feeling good for myself. It's, you know what I mean? It's nothing to show off with, nothing to boast about. And as Danny said, God gets all the glory, and it's how you spend that time. It's how you spend that time. That's why I
Absolutely.
came on late today. It's how you spend that time. And you can put programs on, like Danny says, but you've got to find what the men want. And even sometimes if you find what they want, again, if something else can take them away, it will take them away.
Well, I was just going to add to that, DJ. The thing is, I will say that I will sum that up in one word in terms of commitment. Men don't seem to be committed. They start things, and then if you're not committed, anything can happen. The dogs died, the cats died. I'm not feeling very well. You ain't making it. So I think there's a commitment. When the ladies say we're doing something, they're doing something all the weeks, not just first week and third week and the seventh week. Yeah. So I think it's about commitment, guys. That's what but I also add, I think, which I mentioned to Pastor, I think we could do it also coming up with some new ideas as well. Not the same old.
Yeah.
Right. I had my church going, oh, we're putting on a breakfast, and black men in their food. And I'm like, hold on, that's a bit of a stereotype, isn't it? A piece of bacon and a few beans wouldn't have enticed me just to get to this place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, that's, the sort of mindset that some people have. Yeah? Yeah? Black man in their food. Really? Okay, stay with that.
Yeah. Danny, right?
I'm listening the men's group thing, right? I've run the men's group for a number of years, right? Yeah. And I think I got caught out by the numbers, because you go, same people turn up. All the things you said we've done them. We've done retreats, we've done lunches, soup, chicken and everything, right? Yeah. It's about commitment. After a little while, the men seem to get bored and they don't turn up, and there's about 2 or 3 people there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think I got disheartened in a sense. Do you know what I mean? You right, Danny? So right. It's just me and 3 people here. I eat soup. Would you get soup on Karen, praise the Lord? Not worry about numbers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like about numbers.
Yeah. Well, I always believe whoever's meant to be there is there as well. So
Right.
so the thing is, I remember one of the most amazing testimonies I heard. We'd had this group, about 50 guys, started the program. Football came on, half the guys there, and a white guy stood up, and he didn't know about a white thing or a black thing, but he said he'd committed to come to every single session, irrespective of what big matches, because it was on a Wednesday where all these UEFA matches and all of that. He said, I can watch all of them by replay. Actually,
Yeah.
You know where I'm going with this, guys.
No, totally
Right?
agree.
Yeah.
But
Many
these guys,
years ago, guys, back in the
I'm a big
day,
football fan.
back in the
come
day,
on.
many years ago,
I'm a
back
big
in the
football
day,
fan.
I was a martial arts instructor for 30 years. And we used to charge people, they come and they pay when they come, and if they got it, blah, 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 blah. But the other guys kind of got switched on, and they started doing direct debit. They direct debit. Now you pay £30 a month. You have 2 lessons a week. And if you don't turn up, that's fine. We're still going to collect those direct debits.
Yep.
Now all of a sudden everybody's turning up because I paid my money. I paid my money. I want my thing. You see how we are. You see, I think we're just too cheap. We're just too cheap. We're just too cheap.
We don't see the value. We don't see the value of things.
No, well, I'm just bringing you back to where you started. Men are not valued.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why I believe men are not valued, because we don't really have much value in ourselves. You see, we haven't valued ourselves to say, you know what, I'm a man of my word. I promised
Yeah, come on.
that 20 odd years ago when I started the men's group, a guy says to me, I don't know, Les Isaacs. Les Isaacs says to me, when you start, keep going.
Come on.
Because what will happen if you're not there? People will be looking for you, say, he's just another one. And
Well,
I've been doing it for 20 odd years now, still trying to get, still got no numbers. Because no matter how much commitment you have, AB, no matter how much commitment you have, Derek, you know what? You're one man walking on your own.
Mhm.
We have to do something that goes beyond
Start somewhere.
Saturday soup. We had Saturday soup, goes beyond bacon, piece of bacon and some beans. I totally agree with you, bro. I'm not, I won't totally agree with that. I won't stand in a buffet. I won't stand in, I'm not standing buffet for a piece of chicken and I can go down the road and buy one. But my point is, and you know, we're closing soon, but I just want to make that point to you all that until we have something that happens in us that
Amen.
tells us this is worth dying for. See, I'm coming to this point. Great movements. Yeah, last night I watched a show called Michael X, about Michael X, the guy from back in the day, and
Yeah.
questions whether he's whatever. Anyway, he was doing something and people followed him. Did you know no matter what you preach, people will follow you? Don't get upset that people following. I watched something on television the other day. They were selling bottles of red juice, calling it the blood of Jesus, and people bought it. You know, for you guys that want to go into business with me, I'm starting a new business with empty bottles. I got some empty bottles and I'm going to put labels on the breath of God. And somebody buy it, somebody buy it. What I'm saying to you is that we have got to change ourselves. And I'm all for the 1 and 2 in a group, but I'm telling you this, Jesus Christ didn't come to die for one. He came for all. And we get so happy. We do a concert. You guys have been around that circle. And we get a few people in the door and say, yeah, well, you know, at least we reach one. That wasn't your intention when you did the concert. Your intention was to reach them all. And we have lowered our standards so much now. We're kind of happy. Well, you know, 2 came. I don't want 2. I want all. I'm greedy. I want all. And I'm just saying that we'll give you fish, we'll give you bread, we'll give you whatever we need to give you. But what I really want from everyone, this is just me. I want your mind.
Come on.
Christ says once your mind has changed, and that's one thing we're not doing. We're filling them up with food. We give them this, we give them TV. We ask them, what would you like? When has God and Jesus ever come to the people and said, what would you like me to say? He didn't. He come and told them what needed to be said. And this is why I say, you know, I'm all for us doing events with every and anybody, and people have got stories they want to tell us, and I'm glad for the stories. But at the end of the day, I have to ask you the question, what can they tell us to get us into eternity, if that's the kind of people you are? We're talking about, are men needed in the modern day church? I want you to finish up this evening, guys, by just giving us a couple of minutes on your summarizing. We talked about the abuse of the pastors. We talked about men's value. We talked about women hindering and all this kind of stuff that we say. I want you to just give us the closing of the evening, a couple of minutes each, just on your summarizing. Are men needed in the modern day church? And here's the thing. And if you think they are, what are you going to do about it? Not what they're going to do. What can you do? Anyone like to start that up just to close this evening? Go, Danny.
Yes, I believe that men are needed in the church, most definitely. I look at the church right now, and I think the church is weaker than it ever was. If you go back 100 years with all the great men of the Bible, not great men of Wesleyans, or the, you know, I'm about spiritual words. Them men are powerful ministers. It's about us and our ministry and going out there and trying to, never going out there. Church starts at home, obviously, but within your own church community, trying to step up and do something and sticking with it. I've always been part of the men's group, and I feel really strongly in talking to men on one-on-one basis. So for me, I step up my game. Stop procrastinating, step up my game, and follow it through. I mean, yes, it's got to be yes or no, it's got to be no. You understand? If I can't do it, I'll say I can't do it. If I'm going to do it, follow it through.
Okay.
Follow it through.
Thank you, Danny.
Yep, I'll come in. Absolutely, men are needed in the modern church. More and more men. Churches should be overfilled. You know,
Yes.
we've had a commission to go and bring men in, and well, everybody in. But I think there's a specific call for men to baptize them, yeah, in the name of Christ. But the other thing that also occurs to me with this imbalance of women, if this is the way God intended it, need prospective partners. And I'm not saying church is a dating agency, but I'm just saying, just being real. Also, there's lots of children in the church who are from single parents, and so they need good role models. So we are so needed You know, again, as I said, the word has said that we are supposed to be the head of the house. We are supposed to be the high priest of the altar, and all of that. God has given us, as your subject we call it, a mandate. Yeah, but very few outlets are looking at what will I do about this. I've got something in myself which is about men's ministry, but one of the things I've realized, sometimes it's not about an individual thing. Just me and Pastor Owen have connected, nothing to do with men before, and as time has gone by, I've seen a synergy. So sometimes God wants you sometimes to connect with other guys with the same heart and the same thing that he's dropped in their spirit as well.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about reaching out to men. And I'm going to say, and I'm going to be not mercenary here, I'm not just talking about guys in the church, I'm talking about unbelievers. Guys already in the church are already saved, inverted commas. But actually reaching out, there's lots of broken men. I mean, I went through quite a bad divorce, and God dropped that in me. I want you to go and help guys get through that, and in that to know Christ. So, you know, I'm on a bit of a treadmill to connect with other men and other groups to that end.
Excellent. Thank you, Derek, for that.
Yes, Owen.
Bless you, sir.
Men are definitely needed in church, in this modern day church, Owen. As you know, I was doing a group. I'm not going to keep you too long. I was doing a group once a month. Well, one of the men in the group, he caught pneumonia. It kind of upset me, right? Because he wouldn't even tell his mom that he was sick, and he comes in the group every month. And that's a young man, and these are the things what we're talking about. You know what I mean? His mom had to pull him up, get on the phone the doctor for him. And tell you the truth, I got on the phone and I told him off. You know what I mean? Because I said, look what you put your mom through to know that you've got pneumonia, and you come in this group every single week. Yeah, what we've got to do something. It's like what Derek said, but we have to come together. Yeah, individually, we can do something. Like I said, I'm out there helping the elderly. I'm talking to elderly men. I'm out there trying to get the men together as well. But it's about unity, coming together. We just got, look what Jesus did.
Yeah.
He could have done it by himself, you know. But what did he do? He got 12 men.
Sorry. I'm listening to all you guys here now, right? Yeah. Why haven't I met you guys before and spoke like this? Why? We're not the only ones like this. Why are we not together more like this? As a collective, why?
As my dad would say, nothing happens before it's time. So now is the time. Yeah.
But are we going to do it? Are we going to procrastinate? Are we? Now
No.
time, you said it.
Yeah.
No.
But what we have to do,
Yes, I think
Hold on, Danny. Danny, hold on. Just AB just finished off his point.
yeah, it's like what Owen says, right? We're here now, right? We've got to just stick with it, right? We're here now, like he says. Like I says, it's only through COVID why I went in the men's direction. You know what I mean? I was just playing music on the radio, you know what I mean? But it weren't really about men. The only topic what I touched on men when I had cancer as well. I had prostate cancer, and I talked to men individually. I went in groups and I spoke to men. Go and get tests. But then again, that laziness crept in, like I says. You know what I mean? That laziness crept in again, and then the fire come up again.
Yeah.
And I think, like I says, Jesus, he could have done it by himself. You know what I mean? But he came and he had 12 men. I'm not saying we're going to have 12. There's 5 of us here. There's probably more. Like he says, where are they? You know what I mean? They will come. But we have to keep this fire burning. We have to keep it burning. Yeah, I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep my fire burning now.
I hear that, brother. Thank you, AB. Bless you, sir.
We have to keep it burning. You know what I mean?
Thank you very much, brother. Truly appreciate that. Danny?
Yeah, I believe there is a place for men in the modern church. I think, but I think we still need, some of the things we need to do is go back to the fundamental basics in teaching. But also, one of the things that struck me when AB was talking is that when I trained as a youth and community worker, one of the fundamental things tutors touched on was networking. We don't network. We stick to our own churches instead of going out and seeing all the other churches and getting ideas from other churches, even the,
Yep.
the
Come on.
churches that have got the young people, because I'm sure they don't have this issue of the ratio of girls to boys in their churches. And I think we need to even look at that and how they do it. And but for me, in terms of my commitment, of being a radio presenter, one of the things this month of August, we've been teaching about the prodigal, because it really lays heavy on my mind, because I'm a pastor. I'm pastor's child who went away from the church and moved away from the church, but came back. But I know a lot of brothers that I grew up with, who still hasn't come back to the church. And my aim is getting to find them and encourage them to come back, because they have been damaged. But the point is, one of the things I learned. One of the things I learned, it wasn't the church that damaged me. It was just certain people in the church, and that's one of the things we have to tell people. It isn't the church; it's certain people. And
I agree with you. I think we as men have got to stand our ground, do what we have to do, and as you rightly say, I always say to people when they say hypocrites in the church, I say, well, you got on the club. That's full of hypocrites as well. You go and get your hair done, that's full of hypocrites as well. You know, the nail bar is full of hypocrites. You know, it's just thing that people use. I want to thank you guys, but I just want to share a scripture with you and for the listeners out there also, where my heart is, where my mind is. It's from Malachi 4:6. Malachi 4:6. And the scripture says this, it says, and he, being God, and he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to their fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. And I really believe, brothers, that the reason why we're having these conversations, because it's time for us men to get together and start doing what we're supposed to do. And we've talked about it tonight. We've not even scratched the surface tonight of the stuff that we need to talk about, which I'm hoping over the next few weeks or the next few months or the next few years, hopefully, in this mandate evenings that we have, we've got many things we need to talk about that hinder the church, that stop us being the people that we're supposed to be. Brother Derek pointed out something that we need to deal with is our broken hearts. The reason why men are in the state they're in is because most of us are broken. We've been through broken situation, broken lives, marriage, divorce, children, work, finance, you name it, job, everything. We're broken, but that's okay, because our God said he comes to bind up the brokenhearted. And we have to do some binding. We have to do some work too. And I want to keep on encouraging men to do what God wants them to do, because I know when we catch it, I should say, there'll be no stopping us. As you rightly said, Jesus could have done it on his own, maybe, you're right, but he chose to use others. And I thank God that he chose to use us. So let us do what we can do. Can I just say thank you tonight for coming along to Mandate? I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your efforts and putting everything in. As we come to the end of the evening, I just want to show how much I appreciate you for taking the time out. And I hope you'll come along again to other subjects and other topics that we have in the future. And most of all, I pray that we'll connect together as well in the future. God bless you all. Have a good night. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Night.
Yep.
God bless you guys.
Bless you
Good
guys.
night. God
Take
bless.
care.
Thank you.